Ford has absolutely ploughed money into electric vehicles, with billions being invested into what is seemingly the future of transportation. However, the automotive giant has seen no success from its EV endeavours, losing $4.7 billion on electric models in 2023. It was estimated that they would lose another $5.5 billion on them in 2024, over $100,000 for every one sold. This has led to a reduction in spending on EVs of $12 billion and a shift in strategy, with some upcoming models being pushed back or cancelled. So then, what is the problem for Ford, and is an electric turnaround likely in the short term? We'll go through Ford's electric lineup and assess the successes and pitfalls of every model and take a look at what's to come. As always, if you enjoy, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed. Ford's first foray into electric cars began with the Mustang Mach-E. Aside from the controversial name, it was received pretty well. They're not uncommon to see on UK roads, as the take-up was pretty decent due to it being quite early to the party and coming from a known quantity, with the addition of many company cars becoming electric. However, it's not been able to challenge Tesla, with the Model Y being its most obvious competitor. This is because it's more expensive, despite having less range in its standard form than the Tesla, and having no real advantage in terms of included equipment. All of the trims above the base Select are fitted with a 91 kWh extended range battery, bumping up the price. It feels crazy to say that the GT starts from £67,000, as it's such a departure from Ford's mass market pricing strategy, at least in the UK and Europe, where it's not seen as being premium at all. Despite being out for 4 years now, there hasn't been a facelift, and this has caused problems. Dealers are now stuck with EVs that aren't selling. A quick look at Auto Trader confirms this, as nearly every new Mustang Mach-E has a £10,000 discount, while many have service plans, 0% finance, and available right now. This clearly demonstrates dealers can't shift them, and that Ford is only going to lose more money on these EVs than before. The Mach-E is seemingly overpriced, with manufacturers cutting prices in a bid to push water uphill and sell EVs in large quantities, and cheaper models constantly entering the market. It's hard to see a positive future for Ford's electric pioneer. Even the limited Rally Edition seems to be problematic, despite being reasonably cheap for a limited edition car in this day and age, while residual values for used Mach-E's are poor, likely dissuading private buyers. Therefore, I'll deem this as a failure for Ford. The next electric Ford to launch was the Explorer, with some help from Volkswagen, who provide the platform and batteries. Like the Mustang, it's received stellar reviews and has a similar starting price, undercutting the Mustang's base price by just $4,000. Considering the short period of time since sales commenced, I've seen enough to convince me that it's selling in okay quantities, although probably not as well as the Mustang did when it first came to the UK. It is relatively similar in price, size, and technology to the Mach-E, essentially relegating Ford's first to second choice EV, or as it may turn out in the future, last place. Yet again, there are discounts to be had, although to the tune of a few thousand, not 10,000. Even when the price of the cheapest option falls to £37,000, it doesn't seem a particularly convincing buy, considering the Kia EV3 is generally considered better, the Volvo EX30 is plusher, you can get a fully loaded MG4 with over 100 miles more of range, and an interior that's significantly less sparse and touchscreen dominated. Slightly used Explorers with just a few thousand miles on them are being priced at up to £10,000 below their original price, suggesting that this model wouldn't be a great buy for people trying not to lose a ridiculous amount of money on a car. People who leased a Mach-E or had it as a company car and are in the process of looking for a new EV are now faced with more options outside the Detroit manufacturer, and it would seem unlikely that many jump from the first car to the Explorer when there are so many other options. This seems to be more of a direct Model Y competitor, yet it's hard to imagine Tesla are still worried about the Explorer significantly denting their sales, particularly with the Juniper hitting showrooms soon. It's too soon to properly judge the Explorer, but it being a success looks fairly unconvincing despite being praised. The third EV for Europe is the Capri. Brought back with plenty of fervour, mainly for the sacrilegious use of a legendary name, its incredibly safe styling, it is yet another battery-powered crossover. Again, the price is very similar to the Explorer and Mustang Mach-E, although it's positioned as a sporty and trendy one, which seems a bit odd considering the Mustang Mach is already in use. Anyway, it starts at £42,000, with a top-end premium extended range being offered from £56,175. Look on Auto Trader again, and there are discounts to be had. While, like the Explorer, many of them are just a couple of thousand, there's a top spec one currently being offered for £12,000 below its retail price. It's likely that the Capri and Explorer will be slow movers and see large discounts like this and those seen on the Mach-E in an attempt to drive up sales. Examples with just a few miles on them have already lost plenty of value, with many sitting at around £10,000 below the price of a new Capri, suggesting sales are slow and that the retained value will be woeful. Finally, the most recent electric car, more on a couple of other vehicles soon. From Ford, the Puma Gen E hasn't hit showrooms yet, aiming to emulate the success of a combustion model that was the UK's bestseller last year and has essentially killed off the Focus. The base Select starts from just under £30,000, while the premium is just £2,000 more. This feels about right for the range and equipment, though the base Kia EV3 is cheaper and has a range nearly 40 miles greater, while the extended range option of the Korean car is more or less the same price and offers 150 miles more juice than the Puma. The MG4 is probably a bit more basic inside, but for £500 less than the Gen E Select, you can have the SE long range with the ability to travel nearly 50 miles further as well, so the Ford isn't right at the top when it comes to value. Time will tell whether the Puma Gen E succeeds, but it seems to stand the best chance of any of Ford's electric products, considering how well the MG has sold, the pricing being much more competitive than the success of the regular Puma. There's been a lot of doom and gloom so far, but at least Ford is still seemingly doing well with its vans. The E-Transit has been popular with many delivery companies in the UK, even if most of them arrive at your door at speed, looking significantly worse for wear. Whether the E-Transit Custom, which would typically be used by smaller businesses, sells as well remains to be seen, particularly as it commands an £11,000 premium over the plug-in hybrid, which is currently the only other powertrain. Unfortunately for Ford though, its pickup, the F-150 Lightning, isn't selling quite as well. While sales have jumped significantly since 2022, they're still below expected. This has led to Ford backing off production and even stopping the manufacturing of more until 2025. Price again is a big factor, as the Lightning entered above the original price set out and hasn't dropped since. It looks somewhat encouraging so far, especially if prices can fall, but new additions to the growing segment must be worrying for the Detroit company. Let's get into the crux of Ford's EV woes. It seems to be largely down to the pricing of them. The three models that have been reviewed have been received well, if not being hailed as amazing and revolutionary, but they fade into the background when price comes into the equation. Asian and European competitors have been able to undercut Ford, while Tesla still remains as probably the best bang for buck EV manufacturer. Dealership discounts may help, but consumers are unlikely to go to Auto Trader in search for a brand new car, as they often want to spec them themselves, and many are choosing to shop online rather than at physical locations. This perhaps demonstrates why there are so many readily available at a snip, comparative to the regular asking price. The other problem that may arise is the lack of diversity within the range. While it makes sense to launch crossovers and SUVs, as they are incredibly popular, the problem lies more within the similarity in price and specification, making it harder to determine which one to plump for. This is in contrast to Kia, which is seemingly going electric correctly. The Korean company's first three electric offerings were mid-sized, then large and premium, and then compact and more affordable. This makes it easy for buyers to determine which one best suits their needs, and Kia is now bringing in new models that aren't crossovers or SUVs to fill in the gaps. Crucially, these will use the same mechanical bits as the models before them. It doesn't help that the United States, an incredibly important market for Ford, is averse to electric vehicles at the moment, essentially wiping out a massive opportunity. So then, after all that, is Ford doomed? Are its electric cars guaranteed failures? Well, no, not necessarily, but it's hard to see a world in which they are roaring successes without massive price cuts. Most cars are generally quite good nowadays, and these electric Fords are no different. However, brand loyalty alone is not enough to sell cars. In order to be competitive, Ford must offer vehicles that are either better than their rivals and can justify a higher price, or at the same price or cheaper than similar cars. The only model that is close to doing either of these is the Puma Gen E. So it seems Ford will have to bite the bullet and suck up the losses. The short-term future seems quite bleak, but long-term investment in innovation and ways to bring down prices could reverse its fortunes.